You snapped that last lid shut, slid the containers into the fridge, and felt it. That quiet click of having the week completely handled. That feeling is earned. But here's what almost nobody has pointed out about that exact moment. 4 of the most common foods sitting in your fridge right now, chicken, rice, spinach, eggs, undergo a real documented chemical shift the second time high heat meets them. A shift with a name, a mechanism, and a fix so simple it takes 10 seconds to learn. Your meal prep routine doesn't change, it just gets a little smarter. Stay with me. If you've ever walked away from a health video feeling more anxious than informed, Doctor's Plain English exists specifically to fix that. Every video here is built on real research, translated into language that makes sense in your actual life. No scare tactics, nothing to sell, just the honest truth about what the science says and what it means for you. If that's what you're looking for, subscribe and stay a while. I'm Dr. Hannah Fields, and one thing I've learned across years of clinical practice is that the habits most worth examining are almost always the ones that feel the most automatic. Here's the core of what we're talking about, and I want to frame it carefully because the framing genuinely matters. When researchers discuss diet and cancer risk, they are describing cumulative, long-term patterns, not individual meals, not one container of leftovers. A landmark review published in CA, a cancer journal for clinicians, estimated that roughly 5.2% of new cancer cases in the United States are attributable to dietary factors, things like low fiber intake, excess processed meat, and low fruit and vegetable consumption across years of eating. That's a population-level finding about long-term dietary patterns. What food chemistry research adds to that picture, consistently, across peer-reviewed literature, is that certain specific foods undergo documented chemical changes when exposed to high heat a second time. Changes that produce compounds your body has to process and clear. Over months and years of repeated exposure, that's a load worth reducing, especially when the fix is this simple. Think about what cooking actually does. The first time you apply heat to food, you're doing something precise, unfolding proteins, softening starches, releasing flavor. It's like carefully opening a letter. When you store that food and then apply high heat again, you're opening a letter that's already been opened, and this time, the paper is more fragile. It tears at the edges. In food chemistry terms, that tearing is called oxidation. Heat and oxygen interacting with fats and proteins to produce reactive molecules. Think of them the way you'd think of sparks from a fire. One spark landing on concrete is nothing. Sparks landing on dry paper, repeatedly, over years, that's worth paying attention to. Your body manages oxidative stress every single day. It has sophisticated, well-developed systems for doing exactly that. But there's a solid case in peer-reviewed food science that unnecessarily adding to that load is worth avoiding, particularly when avoiding it requires almost no effort at all. I think of a patient I'll call Delia, whose story reflects a pattern I see fairly often. Delia was careful and genuinely health-conscious. She meal prepped every Sunday, ate lean proteins, plenty of vegetables, eggs most mornings. She came to me not because anything was wrong, but because she wanted to know whether she was doing everything she could for her long-term health. When we looked at her routine together, her food choices were excellent. The way she was reheating certain foods was where we found some easy room to improve. Let's talk about the first food, rice. The concern with rice involves 2 separate issues worth understanding clearly. The first is bacterial. Raw rice naturally carries a hardy organism called Bacillus cereus. When cooked rice cools slowly, that organism can multiply and produce toxins that are heat stable, meaning when you microwave the rice the next day, the bacteria are killed, but the toxins they already produced survive entirely. This is well documented in food safety literature and is the reason public health guidelines consistently recommend refrigerating cooked rice within 1 hour and eating it within 24 hours. The second concern is a compound called acrylamide. When starchy foods like rice are exposed to high heat repeatedly, natural sugars react with an amino acid called asparagine to form acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies acrylamide as a Group 2A probable human carcinogen, meaning the evidence is suggestive, primarily from animal studies, but not yet conclusive in humans at typical dietary levels. The European Food Safety Authority reviewed this extensively and recommended reduction where practical. That's the honest clinical summary. The fix: cool rice flat and fast, refrigerate within 1 hour, eat within 24 hours, and reheat only once. Now let's talk about chicken. When animal proteins meet high heat a second time, two things happen. Fats already partially broken down by the first cooking oxidize further, producing compounds like malondialdehyde, a marker researchers use consistently in food science to measure oxidative stress. Simultaneously, amino acids and creatine, naturally present in muscle tissue, react under high heat to form heterocyclic amines, known as HCAs. Research documented in Mutation Research by Sugimura and colleagues established HCA formation in cooked muscle meats and their capacity to interact with DNA. Several specific HCAs carry a Group 2A classification from IARC. HCA formation accelerates above 300 degrees Fahrenheit and increases with cooking time, which means a microwave blasting leftover chicken to steaming is exactly the wrong approach. The fix: 50% microwave power, a lid, a splash of moisture, and a thermometer targeting 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Or, for chicken going into a salad or wrap, eat it cold. Safe, nutritionally intact, and none of the reheating chemistry applies. Delia had been microwaving her meal prep chicken on full power for nearly 3 minutes until it was almost too hot to handle. When we talked through the chemistry, she switched to low power with a splash of broth and a lid. 3 weeks later, she told me it actually tasted better, which makes complete sense because she'd stopped cooking it twice. The third food is one that genuinely surprises most people: spinach and leafy greens. Spinach is genuinely one of the most beneficial foods available, rich in iron, folate, magnesium, and nitrates, that research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition has linked to cardiovascular health and healthy blood pressure. That reputation is completely deserved, and nothing about reheating changes how good fresh spinach is for you. Here's what storage and reheating specifically change. When cooked leafy greens are refrigerated, naturally occurring bacteria begin converting those beneficial nitrates into nitrites. The longer the greens sit, the further that conversion progresses. When you then reheat those greens at high temperature, conditions develop where nitrites can react with amino acids, either in the food or later in the stomach, to form nitrosamines. Several specific nitrosamines carry a Group 1 classification from IARC, meaning strong evidence of carcinogenicity from occupational and experimental data. The European Food Safety Authority has issued formal guidance noting concern about nitrate-to-nitrite conversion in stored, cooked vegetables. That's a real, documented institutional position. The fix is the simplest one in this entire video. Cook leafy greens fresh, eat them the same day, or eat leftovers cold the next day. A cold spinach salad dressed with olive oil and lemon is nutritionally excellent and sidesteps the reheating concern entirely. When Delia and I talked through the nitrate conversion timeline, she immediately said, "So I just eat it cold or make it fresh." Exactly right. 30 seconds to understand, 30 seconds to fix. The fourth food is the one that surprises people the most: eggs. Eggs are nutritionally outstanding. Complete protein, choline for brain function, lutein and zeaxanthin for cellular health. I want to establish that clearly, because eggs deserve their strong nutritional reputation entirely. The documented concern is this: egg yolks contain cholesterol, and cholesterol is sensitive to heat. When cooked eggs are refrigerated and then reheated at high temperatures, particularly in a microwave, the cholesterol in the yolk can oxidize to form compounds called oxysterols. A review published in Food and Chemical Toxicology examined oxysterol formation in egg-based foods and documented pro-inflammatory and cytotoxic effects in laboratory and animal research. Some research has examined potential genotoxicity, meaning interaction with DNA. These are real findings worth knowing about. I want to be honest with you. A direct causal link between eating reheated eggs and developing cancer in humans has not been established with the same certainty as other well-known risk factors. The chemistry is real, the biological concern is plausible, and the fix is easy enough that there is simply no reason not to act on it. Delia kept a batch of hard-boiled eggs in the fridge every week and microwaved them every morning. When we talked through the oxysterol research, she switched to storing them unpeeled and eating them cold. She told me 2 weeks later she'd stopped noticing that rubbery, sulfurous smell, which is exactly what you'd expect, because the secondary oxidation was no longer happening. The fix: cook eggs fresh when you can, store hard-boiled eggs unpeeled, eat them cold. If warming is necessary, use the lowest effective heat and stop at 165 degrees. Here's what I genuinely want to know. Of these 4 foods, which one are you most likely reheating on autopilot right now without giving it a second thought? Tell me in the comments, and if there's a food you meal prep regularly that I haven't mentioned, drop it below and I'll tell you exactly where it sits in the research. Here's one simple framework to hold all of this together. I call it the one heat rule, and it has 3 parts. Part 1. One heat, one time. Every portion of these 4 foods gets high heat exactly once. After that, you eat it cold or you leave it alone. Part 2. 165 is the line. When reheating is necessary, your target is 165 degrees Fahrenheit, measured with a thermometer. Not steaming, not 2 minutes on high. 165 and done. Part 3. 1 day for greens. Leafy greens get eaten the day they're cooked, or cold the next day. That's their window. 1 heat, 165, 1 day, 3 numbers, 1 rule. Starts tonight. Tonight, plan to eat tomorrow's leftover spinach and eggs cold. This single swap requires 0 equipment and 0 effort. This week, pick up a basic instant read meat thermometer if you don't have one, roughly $10, and it changes how you approach reheating everything. For your next meal prep, when rice finishes cooking, set a 1-hour timer and get it into the fridge flat and spread out before that timer goes off. Plan to eat it within 24 hours. For chicken, use 50% microwave power with a lid and a splash of liquid. Better yet, plan which portions go into cold dishes and skip reheating those entirely. And if this is brand new information and you've been reheating these foods for years, please don't panic. We are talking about cumulative patterns over long periods of time, not damage done by any single meal. The best time to make these small adjustments is simply now, going forward. If you have a personal or family history of colorectal, gastric, or esophageal cancer, this is a reasonable topic to raise at your next routine wellness visit as part of a broader dietary conversation with your physician. A conversation, not a crisis. Rice carries 2 concerns when reheated: heat-stable bacterial toxins that survive the microwave and increased acrylamide formation from repeated high heat. Cool it fast, refrigerate it quickly, eat it within 24 hours, reheat it once. Chicken forms heterocyclic amines when muscle proteins meet high heat a second time, compounds with documented DNA interaction in food chemistry research. Low heat, moisture, a thermometer, or eat it cold. Spinach and leafy greens convert nitrates to nitrites during refrigeration, and reheating creates conditions for nitrosamine formation. Cook fresh, eat same day, or eat cold the next day. Eggs form oxysterols when yolk cholesterol oxidizes under repeated high heat, compounds with real pro-inflammatory properties in laboratory and animal research. Cook fresh, store unpeeled, eat cold, or use gentle heat. And Delia, who came in already doing most things right, left with 4 small adjustments to a routine she was genuinely proud of. The routine was good, it just got a little better. Yours can too. That click of the Tupperware lid, the one that started this whole conversation, that sound doesn't need to change. The routine stays, the satisfaction stays, it just comes with more knowledge behind it now. The research behind everything I shared today is real, the findings are accurately framed, and every uncertainty I named is genuinely still uncertain, because that's what you deserve from a health conversation. No more, no less. If someone in your life lives on meal-prepped leftovers and thinks they've got it completely figured out, share this with them, not to worry them, but because they deserve the same clarity you just got. And if you want honest, research-grounded health information every single week, subscribe to Doctor's Plain English. That's where I'll be. Before you close this out, which one of these 4 swaps are you making first, and what's the one thing that might get in your way? Everything I've shared today is for general informational purposes, based on real research and clinical patterns I see often. It isn't a diagnosis, and it isn't a substitute for your own doctor, who knows your specific history. Please check with your physician before making any changes to your medications, diet, or health routine.